Hello everyone, me and Troy are going to do something that 100%, no matter how we do it, is going to cause some sort of massive rage in the comments over the things we say. It's unavoidable. We cannot do anything about it, but we can try to minimize the damage. So we're going to be ranking the Otsutsuki today, and this has to be by far the most controversial clan in the entire Naruto franchise, because half the fan base does not like these guys, and then the half that does like them can't decide who's stronger between them. So we have virtually no way of going into this without causing some type of massive storm. The way we're going to try to minimize the damage is we're going to split these people up into tiers of being an Otsutsuki, right? The Otsutsuki, they're kind of like a power-based society, things like that. So the tiers should obviously be split on power, like who's stronger between one or the other. We're gonna go from weakest to strongest. If you want to say anything before we start,
even if y'all disagree with like exactly where we placed them, these tiers, like Six said, should just help it, more people to agree. I highly doubt like the people we have in S tier you're gonna think are even comparable to E tier.
Obviously, subscribe to me. We put a lot of time and effort into this. No, we didn't. I'm lying. We put a good amount of time and effort into this. And subscribe to Troy as well, please. So at the weakest, we have Ashura and Indra. Now, Ashura and Indra, they're strong, right? Like they're like sort of in that end game tier of Naruto power, just because they get like brung up there. We know Ashura was a user of 6-pass Sage mode. Indra fought him. And these are just like the E tier people, just Ashura and Indra. We'll put them on like a similar pedestal, but the way like the Ashura Indra fight seemed to go is like the Ashura one wins. At least
more than likely. Of course, there are times where like the Indra reincarnate may take a dub or may win here and there. Mostly it's the good defeating the evil, therefore Ashura defeating Indra.
Yeah. So when you look at it that way, you look at it like, oh, Ashura, he was left everything by Hagoromo, things like that. And then we see like, oh, Naruto and Sasuke, they were somewhat comparable in their final fight. So were Madara and Hashirama. Actually, Madara and Hashirama just stayed to be straight up equal. To say like, yeah, Ashura and Indra should be on like a similar level, but Ashura should just be the stronger one, right? Like Ashura can wield 6-pass Sage mode. He can wield the Tree Seeker orbs. Indra, all we really know he has is like perfect Susanoo and a massive one of that, and the Mangekyo Sharingan. We don't even know if Indra had EMS, do we?
Yeah, we just don't know any of that.
Yeah, there is that like filler arc. You can maybe get some more of your answers from there, but we haven't seen the anime in years. Like me and Troy, we haven't seen the anime in years.
So we're not going to be using that. We're just going to be going pretty strictly manga.
Yeah. So if you want to go look at that, try to get some answers of your own, go ahead. But like they do change a few things. Like I know in the anime, Indra has like Sasuke, Susanoo, and his MS, things like that. In the manga,
Ashura has the Rasengan for some reason.
Yeah, in the manga,
don't know what that's
we
about.
see Indra's MS pattern. It's like a swirly thing. It's definitely not Sasuke's pattern. So the canonicity of that arc isn't questioned, but if you want to use it, go ahead.
Even if you were to use that arc, I doubt the conclusion would really change. I still think Ashura would probably end up being the strongest, because in both canons, I think he still ended up defeating Indra. So it doesn't really matter.
So the next tier is D tier, and in this tier we just have Hagoromo and Hamura. Now these guys, like this is just where it gets controversial. Like one tier up from E tier, this is where it gets controversial, because I know there's a large deal of people who think Hagoromo is stronger than Kaguya. I do not think that's the case. I don't think it's implied to be the case. I think Hagoromo actually implies the opposite multiple times, saying his mother was stronger than anyone else, things like that. I do not think Hagoromo and Kaguya are on the same level.
Even looking at the fight, it's like, to think Hagoromo alone is more powerful, wouldn't that kind of just defeat the purpose of him and his brother, two people fighting this one person for months on end just to seal her, not even being able to kill her? It's kind of like, why would he alone be stronger? He even just outright states there was no one as strong as mother. So
yeah, and if you use the anime for this, it doesn't even get better, because in the anime, Hagoromo does not become the 10 Tails Jinchuriki.
I actually did not know that.
He doesn't. He splits up the 10 Tails, and then they just leave. He never becomes his Jinchuriki. And in the manga, he never fights Kaguya. I'm being dead ass. In the manga,
so it's just
he never fights Kaguya. It's so weird. I went through it like because I was like planning on doing another video on Hagoromo. That's why I'm not gonna dwell on this for too long. But he never fights Kaguya. They seal Kaguya, then they fight like the 10 Tails or something like that. But he says in the manga that he doesn't fight Kaguya.
Yeah.
And then, like, you know, you can even back that up with like, oh, he didn't know the god tree was Kaguya and the 10 tails, blah, blah, blah. So yeah. But yeah,
Hagoromo's more or less a match for like those moderate tier people. He's not quite on the level of Kaguya yet.
And then, like, you could say there's that whole panel where we see Hagoromo and Hamura like supposedly sealing Kaguya from her perspective. But you could say like maybe she can see from inside the Jubi or something like that, because it's literally in the manga they do not fight. So
it's really just heavily implied that he's not on the tier of her. She's just a whole nother tier than anything we've seen.
And then Hamura and Hagoromo, obviously they're just like somewhat comparable, right? Fighting Kaguya together.
Yeah, implied that if fought together, you know, have both chakra from their mother.
So that's like D tier there. Like, you can say Hagoromo after that in the manga anyway. He should be stronger than Hamura, at least Byakugan Hamura, because he gets the 10 tails in the manga, things like that. And he's above Ashura.
He gets outside amps.
Because Ashura gets all of Hagoromo's like old man chakra. Then in C tier, this probably gonna be the tier that's like gonna take the longest.
Yeah.
We have
I already know the comments after this one.
Yeah, we got 4 different Otsutsuki here. There's base Momo, there's Kaguya, there's Toneri, and Kinshiki, all in the same tier. Now, we can sort of rank these people in tier, but they shouldn't all be like massively apart from each other.
Yeah, they aren't as big as the gap from D to C. In tier, they're pretty close, just not quite on the same level as each other.
So Momoshiki should be the strongest one in this tier for sure. He should be like relative to Kaguya through something we're going to explain a little bit later. Kaguya should be like relative to Toneri, maybe a little bit stronger, and Toneri through that is probably a little bit stronger than Kinshiki, or maybe they're just like on the same level, whatever. The reason we think Kaguya and Momoshiki are relative is this sort of implied that the Otsutsuki, they have this like power-based society, right? This power-based ranking in society. So then we get to see Sasuke travel to like this weird dimension where Ishiki keeps his 10 tails, and there's like literally an Otsutsuki leaderboard on panel.
Yeah, so, just showing how they all just rank.
So we get to see Momoshiki on the side, Kinshiki's under him, Ishiki's at the top, and Kaguya's right under Ishiki. But then we look at Momo and Kaguya's placements on the leaderboard anyway, they sort of line up together, right? And then with it being like a power influence society, you could say like, oh, maybe this is because they're kind of supposed to be on like a similar level, right? You can draw this correlation to a lot of the stuff on the leaderboard, right? You can say Ishiki is stronger than Kaguya, that's why he's on top of Kaguya. He's also stronger than Momo, so he's on top of Momo. Momo is stronger than Kinshiki, so Momo's on top of Kinshiki. So naturally it would flow that if Kaguya and Momo are right next to each other, they should be like at a similar tier of power or evolution. Maybe Kaguya doesn't hit as hard as Momo, but maybe her hacks make up for it, regeneration, things like that. We don't know. All of these people should just be like around the same tier.
Toneri, more or less all his power comes from when he gets the Tensegon. He has like this weird statement of him not only having chakra similar to Kaguya, but being the strongest, what does it say, villain that they've ever faced, or the strongest opponent. Enemy. Yeah, the strongest enemy Naruto and the gang has ever faced. This would of course include Kaguya. Now this is with the Tensegon, so there's no base weird Toneri stuff, because I know Toneri when he's in base, he like travels in a puppet body and he gets beat by, I believe, base Naruto, right?
Well, it's like Kurama chakra amped punch, but isn't every punch in KCM like that, really?
Yeah.
Maybe you can even argue like maybe Naruto got like a mental amp when he stopped Toneri or something like that, because they were like relative when he was BG Sage mode, right?
And that punch really seems to be him putting all of his KCM chakra into that one hand.
Yeah. Kinshiki's just beneath Momoshiki. Like, we see whenever the Kage run into Momoshiki and Kinshiki, they like quickly dismiss Kinshiki. And then when they run into Momoshiki just absorbs Kinshiki literally. Like, he takes his Rinnegan, little power activate, takes Kinshiki and eats him. So like any Momoshiki versus Kinshiki matchup, that's all that's happening. Would
just end up like that. He just eats Kinshiki, fights over.
It's sort of implied it's like a generational personal thing. So I don't really think he could do that to someone like Kaguya and Toneri, right? Like he even says like, oh, you don't have the power to pass, your power down to the next generation. He says that to Naruto. So yeah, Momo should be like relative to Kaguya. They're all like relative, but they all should just be like above Kinshiki, but not to the point where it's like a whole tier of a difference.
Yeah, they're not like just destroying Kinshiki, but they are above.
And then we got the B tier Otsutsuki. The B tier Otsutsuki are Momoshiki fused and Tenseigan Hammer. Now, don't dislike the video. Just give me 2 seconds so I can explain. If Toneri is like at C tier, right? And then it's sort of implied Toneri is trying to get as strong as Hammer was, and he's misusing the Tenseigan Hammer had, right? And we can say obviously Hammer got stronger because he gained the Tenseigan. He's stronger than Toneri. So just put him a tier up. Not saying he's relative to Fuse Momo. I'm not even necessarily saying that he would beat the Otsutsuki beneath him because they have like crazy hacks, right? I'm just saying if we do like a power thing, this is more like an honorable mention. We'll put it that way. If we do like a power thing, Hamura is like right here. I guess like, do you want to do Urashiki? Like just talk about him right quick because I haven't seen the anime as much as you have. So just talk about that nigga.
I'm not gonna say like objectively where he is. I'm not even gonna place him. I'm gonna just leave this up to y'all's interpretation. He is stated to be revered as the strongest in his clan. That means that he's thought to be just more powerful than Momoshiki, Kenshiki, and Kaguya. Ishiki isn't introduced by this point, so we can't really use him. I know y'all are gonna say he's relative to Kid Naruto and Boruto and Shiki.
I do know that part. He was poisoned majority of that arc.
Yeah, so you can say that just weakened him. So he's not truly relative to Kid Naruto.
Yeah, he went from above Momoshiki to one-tailed Naruto level. That shit just sounds so stupid.
But if we were to go down that line of reasoning and take his statements at face value, then he would be in this same B tier with Fuse Momo. Because we can't say he's above Fuse Momo because that Momoshiki isn't just a base Otsutsuki. Yeah. But he would be above the likes of Momoshiki, Kaguya, Toneri, and Kinshiki. He literally seals base Toneri in time. So
Fuse Momo literally stated to be just like completely over base Momo by Naruto.
Yeah, he stated on a completely different level. Like Sasuke can't even cut his head with the sword initially.
Obviously just like manga Momoshiki, right? So we might have to use like a weird bit of scaling, something like that, for these next placements, but
this is gonna be another controversial part.
It's not too out there. Next tier is A tier, right? These are the A tier Otsutsuki, almost cream of the crop, almost top tier. These are the guys, Borushiki and Kawaki Ishiki, or Kawashiki, whatever you want to call it. At the time of recording this, the latest chapter out is chapter 65. So if chapter 66 comes out and completely debunks everything I'm about to say, just please disregard it, because that has happened before.
Yeah.
So just disregard it if it happens here. So Borushiki, we sort of think it's implied that Momoshiki retains his fused power, but his soul is still like appears as his, what we know as his base form, what we call his base form. The reason for this is because Borushiki seems to be much stronger than fused Momoshiki. So in the manga, we see Naruto like kicking around Fuse Momo. Like Naruto is beating Fuse Momo down in the manga.
Like there is no comparable anything. Naruto is just faster and stronger.
Like Momoshiki in the manga, Fuse Momo, he's more comparable to like base Naruto. Naruto is like beating him down, but then we get these statements later that sort of implies like Code is this like new level of villain. Like Code's this new stronger threat. I'm pretty sure the guides even call him like a greater threat, things like that. Code is this new like stronger villain. He's obviously not stronger than Ishiki. He should be like stronger than base Jigen or something like that, but he's not.
Yeah, minimum stronger than base Jigen at least.
He shouldn't be like Karma 3 level or anything like that. Like not fully transformed Jigen. So we get these statements that like Naruto, even with Kurama, may not have been able to beat Code. And if you take all that to be the case, like the implications and all that are the case, then it would mean Borushiki, which is like Momo Momo plus Boruto is stronger than fused Momoshiki, which would mean like things like base Boruto is stronger than Kinshiki. You could take that a lot of places that I don't want to mention here necessarily, because I just kind of want to get through with the video, and then you can talk about our number one. Obviously, Kawaki and Borishiki, they should be like relative, right?
Yeah, they're like rivals. Just imply that their karmas make them comparable, their bases are comparable, just the same. Wherever Borishiki goes,
Borishiki should be a little bit stronger, or maybe actually Boruto should be a lot stronger, because Kawaki has the stronger Otsutsuki's karma, and I'll have my editor put a page from the Borokara on what karma is on screen, so you can like screenshot that, read it yourself. There's a lot of information on it that I think could be useful. But Kawaki has the stronger karma, but Borushiki has the stronger person in control because he has better usage of the Otsutsuki power. And code like implies that there's like the whole knowledge amp thing, all that stuff.
At S tier, I don't think anyone would disagree with this. Like I don't think there's a single person who would disagree with Ishiki being in a whole another tier or stronger than every other person of his clan that's been mentioned up to chapter 65. Ishiki not only has dominated Naruto and Sasuke, he's broken Boruto mentally. He was just freaking out. He got his mind broke even. He's made Sasuke so scared that he thinks the only way to defeat him is waiting until he destroys himself. And while I'm not going to say he's comparable to Baryon Mode could not no, he did beat his ass, but he couldn't just like one-shot him, right? He has some good endurance. Yeah, he's just stated to be the strongest of his clan, stronger than anyone else.
He's literally
him reviving
the strongest enemy ever.
Yeah, him getting revived, they literally thought it was just the end of the world if he were to be revived.
They're like, we cannot let him get Kawaki's body at any cost. But yeah, that's the video. Obviously, drop your own Otsutsuki rankings in the comments. I'd love to read them. I try to read as many comments as possible, but sometimes there's just too many, and sometimes people are just saying dumb stuff.
If you don't have Ishiki at the top, we're not reading it.
Yeah, I know the people who leave the dumb comments aren't subscribed to me because my subscribers are not dumb. Yeah. I know that.
Peak human race.
Peak human.
As always.
Subscribe to Troy. Like I said, I want him to get to 1K. Other than that, we're done. Goodbye.
Yeah.
Have a nice day.